Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be filming another story time for you. As you can tell by the title down below, this story time is going to be talking about some of my worst dates of life. I feel like is going to be a very lighthearted story time. So by all means, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Where do I begin? Alright, so growing up, I wasn't a very confident or girly or very attractive girl. Not that I'm saying that I'm super attractive now. I'm still very insecure in my own way, but growing up it was just really bad. And it wasn't until I got to the last years of my high school life that I began to be a little more confident and boys started to notice me. I didn't have my first boyfriend until I was 17 years old, my first real boyfriend. And every boyfriend before that was just like, you know, when you say somebody is your boyfriend but that you don't see him outside of school, you don't hold hands, and maybe if you held hands it was like the only thing that you did. You didn't go on dates and things like that. Before my real boyfriend though, I did go on a date with one guy who I was like, at that time, I thought I was like so in love with him. I thought it was so like, I was very smitten. I was a freshman in high school and he was a sophomore. His name was J. Some of you who are watching are from my high school class. Thank you so much for watching. You guys probably don't know this story, but you probably know. Anyway, a lot of people didn't like it that I was dating him because I was a freshman in school and he was a sophomore, and God forbid a lower classman dated an upperclassman. There was like a problem. And then I decided to go to the movies one day, and I was very surprised that I was actually allowed to go. I was living with my sister at that time. I moved out of my household when I was 17 years old, and I moved in with my sister, and from there I moved out and moved on my own. Different story time. But I went to see the Headless Horseman with him. This is an old ass movie, The Headless Horseman, and it was just very awkward. It wasn't a terrible date, but it was just very awkward. My sister dropped me off. It was a small movie theater. It wasn't even like a huge movie theater. It was a tiny movie theater on Route 4 next to Garden State Mall. The movie theater isn't even there anymore, but we saw The Headless Horseman. I was very nervous because I always see movies where, you know, people watch movies with their boyfriends and they make out and stuff, and I was not ready for that. Before him, I kissed one other guy, and I was not willing to make out with anyone, let alone make out with them in the movie theater. So I was just very nervous, and he kept asking me if I was okay, and I kept saying, yeah, I'm okay, I'm okay. I was not okay. I was not okay. That had to be the most awkward experience of my life. The movie felt like it was a million years long, and my sister was waiting for me outside when the movie ended. So it was like I was very weird during the movie, and then we didn't really get to talk much after the movie because my sister picked me up directly afterward. But needless to say, that relationship didn't last very long because of my awkwardness, and the whole entire time he was cheating on me because I didn't give him anything, and I guess he was used to getting stuff, you know, sexual things. I wasn't willing to do that, and so he cheated on me, but the date was just very weird. The next day I didn't know what to say to him in class, I mean in the hallways. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to act. I was just very nervous. I was very nervous. Now moving on and progressing on to my later years of adulthood, these dates are a little more interesting. There was this one guy that I dated. I was out of high school into college, and I dated this guy who was a National Guard, and he was very cute. He was very nice, but he was just, I don't know that he knew what a proper date was. You know what I mean? All the time we would hang out like at like And I'm not saying that I need to dress up in a ball gown. If dudes are watching right now, please take notes, because it's so important when you're trying to like make a good impression on a girl that you treat her like a princess. You want her to feel good and special. You don't want to take her to like a TGI Fridays all the time you date her. So all the time we dated, we went to places like that, like food chains, like, you know, TGI Fridays or Applebee's, and that was cool and all, but that was like the only place that we would go. And all the time we would go there, he just had the worst manners of life. He took me one time, this is a specific time, he took me to Fridays, and he sat down, and the guy was burping, and he even had a fight with the waiter. This is how it happened, okay? We're sitting at the table, and the waiter comes, he gets our drinks and everything, and the guy goes, you know, I'd like a Sprite, no ice. Okay. Waiter comes, brings him the Sprite, but has ice in it. The guy freaking flips. I said, no ice. I don't want this shit. You don't listen. You ain't gonna get a tip. Da, da, da. And I'm sitting there like this. Is he serious right now? This can't be real. The whole entire time I didn't know what to say. I didn't really say anything. He kept asking me if I was okay, what was wrong. Like, he had no idea what just happened. It was like when he spoke to me, he was really sweet, but when he spoke to other people, he was like really nasty. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde. And I noticed it a little bit while we were dating, but it was very, very obvious during our last TGI Fridays visit. I didn't call him after that. He blew up my phone. He ended up coming, you know, to where I worked because he didn't know where I lived. That was like my #1 rule. Girls, if you're dating, do not let a guy pick you up from your house until you've been dating for at least 6 months. Yes, 6 months. I'll tell you why. Dudes can keep up their act for a while. And if they can keep it up after 6 months, God bless them, but the majority cannot. So I would say give yourself at least 6 months after you date somebody, after you decide that, you know, you guys are exclusively dating each other. Do not let him pick you up on a first date or a blind date at your house. Meet somewhere in public. I made the mistake of letting him pick me up from work. So he kept coming to my job and causing scenes, and it was just, I actually had a few like sliced tires and broken windows. I could never prove that it was him, but girl, it was him. Another one of my really, really weird dating experiences happened when I went to Six Flags with a date. I know it was a very weird date. I thought it would be cool when he suggested to take me to Six Flags because, you know, you let loose, you know, get scared, you laugh, and it's very easy to connect with someone when you're vulnerable and on a ride that's scaring the shit out of you. I agreed to it, and I thought it would be a cute date. So we went. First of all, the ride there was so long. We talked the whole time. It was really nice. I felt like I kind of knew him all my life, so I thought, okay, this is gonna be a really cool date. We get there, and it's, first of all, Six Flags from me is about an hour, almost 2 hours away. When we got into Mount Holly, which is the town that Six Flags is near, it got very, very dim and gloomy, so it started raining. I kind of got bummed out because it was raining, but it was no big deal. We just ran into Six Flags. We had our tickets pre-printed. We ran in, we caught cover, we decided to eat something, we were talking, and something weird happens. He starts talking about his ex-girlfriend. And first of all, rule of thumb is never talk about exes on a first date, okay? But he decides to talk about his ex. So I'm not going to be like, I don't want to hear about your ex and seem really weird about it. I just let him talk. I don't engage and tell him anything about my ex-boyfriends because I don't want that to be a topic of discussion, and I don't want it to carry on throughout the day. Like, so when your boyfriend and your ex said this, what did you say? I don't want any of that. I just let him talk, and I just, you know, engaged in his conversation. So he proceeds to tell me that his ex-girlfriend is an officer, okay? And he tells me that she was crazy. Every guy says this. My girlfriend was crazy. I had to get rid of her. She, you know, wanted to control me. It's always the same old song. So we get through the conversation, and you know, I basically tell him, you know, it's good it didn't work out because we wouldn't be sitting here having fun the way that we are. I wouldn't be able to get to know you because you would be with somebody. And he agreed, and we moved on from the conversation. All right, so then we're online for the Batman ride. This is an old story. Batman, I don't even know if it's even out anymore. But we're online for the Batman ride, and he starts telling me about his ex-girlfriend again. But this time she's a nurse, not an officer. She's a nurse now. So I let him talk because I remember in my mind that he told me that his girlfriend was an officer. So maybe I'm like, maybe this is another girlfriend. Maybe he dated a nurse too, right? He starts telling me about an argument that he and his girlfriend had, which he told me before when he told me that she was an officer. So I'm wondering, is he doing this shit on purpose? No, probably not. He was just fucking crazy. He starts telling me about he and his girlfriend, how he had an argument, and she was a nurse, and he thought that, you know, she was a good person because she was a nurse. Same thing he said about the law officer. I thought she was a good person because she was an officer. No. She was a nurse, and, you know, I'm like, oh, what did this girlfriend look like? So he begins to describe her. Same description as the officer. So I'm like, maybe he has a type. Says her name. Ends up being the same name as the officer. Now it's just too many damn coincidences. So I'm like, okay. So I go to him, but wasn't this person an officer? The dude looks at me like a deer in headlights. He's caught. Like, you're caught, dude. So he's like, oh, no, this is another one. I happen to have the same name. So I pretend like I'm with it. Like I'm buying the shit, okay? I'm not, because I drove there with a guy. Rule number 3, I don't know how many rules I have listed, but another rule, if you're going somewhere far with somebody on the first date, drive yourself. Meet him there. Because chances are, if the date goes awry, that ride home is going to be awkward. That's what happened to me. We stay at Six Flags for like 4 or 5 hours. He keeps talking to me about his exes. The occupations change rapidly with every single freaking story that he tells me. So in my mind, I'm like, either this guy is a compulsive liar, or he is like, he has some kind of memory problem, or he can't remember the lies that he's telling me in such a short span of time. But this date needs to end. So I tell him, you know, I'm a little tired. We should head home. I had so much fun. Let's head home, you know, whatever. So we head home, and while we're driving and we're getting closer to my town, he tells me that he really enjoyed the date and he would like to see me again. I go, yeah, sure, call me, you know, call me. He drops me off at my car. I parked at like a Dunkin' Donuts, I think, or a McDonald's or something like that. As I'm getting out of the car, he grabs my arm. Okay, and I'm thinking this guy wants a kiss. I'm not kissing this motherfucker. He's like, if I call you, you're gonna answer? And I go, yeah, just call me. You know, at this point, I'm like, oh my God. He's holding my hand really tight. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die today. He's like, no, really, you have to pick up. Dead ass serious face. I'm like, okay, I'll pick up. Just call me tomorrow, okay? And I'm like trying to like tap his hand to take it off. I'm like, call me tomorrow, all right? Don't worry about it. Just call me. Can I tell you, this was in the age of Nextels. He would, you know, bleep me, I guess. I don't know what it was called, but you know, you know, when you can talk to somebody and it come out on their phone. He was Italian, and his last name was Gambino. And when we first met, he would tell me how he was affiliated with like the mob and stuff, but he'd tell me like laughing. So I thought, this guy is so funny. He's just joking with me, right? Naive girl was me. On my Nextel, he would be like, don't you know who I am? Don't be disrespecting me. You pick up my phone call. Yo, it got really bad. I had to change my number. I had to change my number because the guy kept bleeping me, or whatever it was called with Nextel. He kept calling me. It was so severe that I had to change my number. I had to change my place of work. I had to ask for a transfer because he also knew where I worked. When I met him, I was at Applebee's getting like a drink with a friend. I don't drink, but my friend was getting a drink, and we were sitting at the bar, and he approached me and he's like, hey, what are you guys doing here? And I said, I just got off of work. Oh, really? Where do you work? And I told him, and he remembered. He ended up going to my place of work. It was just a really bad mess, and I almost felt nervous to like go anywhere near the Dunkin' Donuts or the McDonald's that I parked at to meet him when we went on our first date, because I felt like he would be there waiting for me. Like, it was that severe The look in his eyes when he grabbed my hand and told me that I had to pick up my phone when he called me was like serial killer, like, girl, I'm watching you. It was very, very weird. It was the weirdest date, the most scariest date of my life. I thought I was going to be abducted. When he dropped me off at my car and he grabbed my hand, it was super dark. Just to set the tone for you, it was dark out. It was in a very unlit parking lot, and when he grabbed my arm, the door was locked, so it wasn't like I can like open the door and A-team it out and just roll out of there. It was just very, very nerve-wracking. And just rule of thumb, I could have gotten abducted. So just a few of the rules that I just decided to share with you guys. Please take them very seriously, because I don't know what could have happened to me that night. And this story time is all based on my worst date ever. And this is my worst date because I didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, he was a little crazy. He, you know, was a compulsive liar, and it made me very, very uneasy. And had I not reacted the way that I did in that moment, I don't know what could have happened to me. I don't know what he could have did to me. Some people may hear this story and it's like, girl, you're exaggerating. No, I'm not. If you were there, you'd be freaking scared too. If you would have saw the look in his face when he told me I better pick up my phone when he called me, you'd be like, girl, we're going to end up on Lifetime. This is going to be a Lifetime movie because we're going to die. Just make sure that you're very careful when you go out on dates. It's very, very important to not allow somebody to pick you up from your doorstep, not allow them to know where you work. Just stay very, very mysterious. Mystery is good in the first, you know, few weeks of a relationship. My nails are wet and I just messed it up. Mystery is a good thing when you first start out on a relationship or date. So just hold on to that mystery. Don't give out too much at once because you don't know who this person is going to be. Even if you have a good feeling about them. Listen, I've had many good feelings. I've dated police officers. I've dated military men, and they weren't the men that I married, okay? You never really know a person. There's always a side of somebody that you don't know. So you want to be very, very careful and be very, very wary of who you allow into your life and know your personal business. I hope this story time was helpful. I know that you'll take my story and hopefully remember it when you go out on a date. Look, don't always react to something someone says to you. Even if you know that they're lying, if you have some kind of feeling that they're lying, if you drove there with them, if you are far from your car, if you are by yourself, you want to make sure that you don't make them feel anything less than good. Don't overreact. Don't, you know, cause a scene. Don't fight. Don't pick a fight. Don't poke holes in their stories. Don't do any of that. Because these days, while it's very important to find someone who you can spend the rest of your life with, so you do have to date, you got to remember that we're in a different time and people are very extreme right now, and there's nothing more important than you getting home safe. I hope you guys enjoyed my story time. I had a very specific message that I wanted to give you guys, so I wanted to make sure that I just brought that home, and I hope you guys took it in and remember it on all of your dates. Let me know down below on some of your really, really scary or funny or weird first dates. I'd love to hear about them, and I will see you guys in my next video.